Hey everyone, I'm Raya. I'm a first year BTM student at Ryerson University, and today we're talking about UofT's architecture entrance essay. So this video is going to be about what I wrote on my one idea essay, my thought process, and how I structured the overall essay, and I'll also read key areas in my essay throughout this video just for context. Full essay is also linked below, so if you want to go check that out, go do that. Okay, so first thing I want to establish is that the UofT essay, especially for architecture, is very important because for some reason the portfolio is optional, so that kind of puts more weight on your grade and on the essay. So this is why you really want to get the essay right, because it's going to count for a big portion of your admission. So for all entrance essays in general, you want to treat it kind of like an interview, except it's a one-sided interview. And what I mean by that is you want to go into it with the mindset of trying to sell yourself to the admissions officer. So you always want to keep in mind the main questions, things like what sets you apart from the different applicants, why should we hire or accept you, what unique perspectives or life experience you have that help you stand out from the crowd. So for the UofT one idea essay, you have to choose one question out of 4. So I'll just read out the questions out loud. The first one is describe a problem that you solved, intellectual, ethical, or otherwise important to you. Second one, describe a moment when you challenged a belief or idea. Third one, tell us about a time when you learned from failure. Fourth one, tell us how you expressed your creative side through problem solving, innovative thinking, artistically, etc. So I chose number 2, describe a moment when you challenged a belief or idea, because I thought that it had the most potential. Potential meaning it was more general, also known as vague, so I'd be able to have more options available to me to kind of pull out and weave together a more compelling and comprehensive essay. It's kind of like you can fit the other 3 questions into this one big umbrella of question 2, so that's why I chose that. So for this second question specifically, here are 4 things that I was thinking of throughout the writing process and how I determined how to structure the essay. So the very first question I asked myself, I'll read it out here word for word. What have I learned from my personal experiences? ? Anything major ? So for this one, what I meant by that is you want to choose, or I wanted to tell myself to choose a topic that I deeply related to and that I could write a lot about. And then I also wrote avoid cliche, or if it is cliche, give a solid reason for it / add specifics. And that part is really applicable for my essay because my thesis for my essay is never compare yourself to other people. I'll read out the segment. Over the years, I've challenged my personal views on the meaning and implications of success and failure. In the past few years of school and competitive swimming, I've learned many lessons. And one of them is this: never compare yourself to other people. So bottom line, try to tell a unique story or perspective. And number 2, this is what I wrote. Don't be overly positive, also known as naive, or too negative. Strike a good balance. So for this specific question, I interpret it as how did you overcome a negative and how did you turn that into a positive. So if you're too negative, that's not good because you might come off as a pessimistic person and that might taint your chances of getting in. And also don't be too positive with this specific question because it might come across as inauthentic, because I think that this question is asking what are the challenges that you overcame, and naturally overcoming challenges is very difficult, and if you leave out the negative parts entirely, that might undermine how you answer the question. So for this question specifically, make sure to include both sides, both the positive and the negative, and ideally you want to end on a high note. You probably know this if you took English in high school. Good stories have an introduction, rising action, climax, resolution, decreasing action. So likewise, your essay that's asking for how you challenged a belief or idea, make sure to pick a story that you challenged something successfully, and then you want to show the ups and downs for the entire story. So for myself, I included that right here in this segment. As for me, since one of my current goals is to someday represent Canada at an international level in swimming, my experience in life thus far has led me to understand that while I may never live up to my personal goal of going to the Olympics, I need to be able to detach the tangible success from intangible success. And then I follow that negative up with a positive, which is something I learned. Meaning that instead of worrying about the things out of my control, such as my performance against other athletes, I should focus on the things that I can control, such as my daily approach and effort in training. And the third part, after you write this entire thing, you make sure to contextualize it. You always want to have this in the back of your head, and that is, how does this apply to architecture? Why should the admissions officer care about this particular story, and how would the university benefit from accepting me knowing what I just said right here? And so for me, I wrote this part in the conclusion. Consequently, the shift in perspective is not only applicable to my academic or athletic career, but is also applicable to other areas in my life, such as the creative field. See what they did there? As a graduating grade 12 student, there is no doubt countless challenges and problems that await me in the near future, for I still have much to learn about the study of design and architecture. However, with my experiences in dealing with failure through sport, I believe that I'm well equipped to handle the obstacles that inevitably come my way. I am more than eager to soon have the opportunity to hone my skills in a good environment that will help me grow both as a person and as a designer. Galing magbola. And then the fourth one, the last one, is to pretty basic, but follow the prompt. And what I mean by that is you really want to have a good balance between being concise and cutting down on unnecessary words and sentences, and having and including enough details for the admissions officer to get a full grasp of the story. So for the one idea essay, it's supposed to be between 250 and 650 words. This essay is 562. So that's a good balance right there. So to summarize, this particular essay for UofT architecture is important. Make sure to do it way ahead of time and don't cram it. 2, for all entrance essays in general, treat it kind of like an interview where you're trying to convince the other person that you're a good candidate for the job. And then for choosing the question, make sure that you're choosing something that you have a lot to write about and that you can really relate to. And then throughout the essay, don't be overly positive or overly negative. Well, that's more question dependent, but make sure to end on a high note. Tie it back to how this applies to whatever program you're applying to, while making sure that you follow the prompt and the word count and balancing being concise and elaborating enough in details. So that's all I have for today. Even though I covered the UofT one idea essay specifically, I'm sure that you can adapt most of these tips to whatever essay you're writing for your program. And make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to subscribe if you loved it. I'm Raya, and I'll see you in the next video. So for this specific question, I interpreted